I am Groot.
Hey, here we are with Loreweaver and me,
I am Groot.
and today we're going to be looking at the skins for my friend here, and we're both really excited about it.
I am Groot.
Yeah, I agree. You are very handsome.
Hi, everybody. This is once again an episode of the Marvel Rivals character design analysis series that my boyfriend and I are doing. Say hi, Heiko.
Hi, Heiko.
We'll be going through the characters. I'll be showing him all the skins. Today we're doing Groot. Which I think he's really going to like. There's a lot of cool designs for Groot, and Groot is very Heiko core
Yeah.
as far as nature aesthetics
I
go.
always appreciate a good creature.
Okay. Was there anything else we wanted to say to introduce us? Nah. All right, let's just jump in. Groot.
All right, fun. Oh, I was like, you changed the screen. I didn't know we could do this. All right, so let's see what we got going on with Groot, who really kind of just has a basic design. He's basically an Ent, but in space.
Uh-huh.
And so it's kind of interesting what they've done with the silhouette on him, because from most depictions I've seen of him in like some comic screen, some pictures from the comics and from the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, is that they went really slender for most of the time, and this is because the game here is like more combative and more competitive. They really changed the silhouette on him a little bit, so he's kind of following the rest of the heroic Dorito body.
They did give the tree Dorito chest, didn't they?
They did, but they did it in an interesting way because he's not a human being. They could really play with the proportions, so he has kind of like, big round pauldron arms, because they don't have to be muscles, right? And then this huge body on the middle, and then stick twig legs and stick twig thighs, and then they just go gigantic for the far ends of the limbs.
Oh, I never noticed he has mushrooms on him.
Yeah, a little bit like a little bit of pizzazz. And in a fun way, if you look at the broader spectrum of like the color schemes here, like you notice just notice the red mushrooms, but red and brown are both in the red spectrum. So the reds are kind of matching in with the bark, and they just use red on the arms and the legs, and then they only start bringing bright green like right on the upper half of the body. There's like, once you get to the bottom of the ends of the body, there's just none of that lime green. And it's kind of an interesting texture. They did like a stone faceted thing on the top too. Makes it feel like, I think it's a nice choice because it makes it instead feel like magic green goo. It makes it feel like magic green, like mineral, or like maybe even tree sap or something. Like it gives it a natural feel instead of more of like a unnatural feel, even though it's lime green. And nothing in nature is like neon glowing lime green.
You and I are looking at very different lima beans.
You're looking at different green? I'm looking at the brightest green that's on him.
No, I'm making a joke about nature's bright green bean, the horrible lima bean.
Lima beans aren't that green. They're more like a sagey, desaturated green. Learn your greens, Lore. This is like neon. I went to the black light party, bright, right? It's just like super, super colorful. And I think that was just a neat detail, because like most of the ones we've seen of him before is just all bark or maybe some moss and stuff. I don't think he's been depicted as having like a magic glow to him before that I can remember, but I could be wrong.
No, I think that's either something rare in the comics or original to Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, but it is really nice looking. And it's a great way to add some bright color to his design without making it look unnatural.
It is interesting that the way they've designed it, he's the green stone underneath all the bark, like all throughout his body. Like you can see the green stone under the bark at various places in his chest and his limbs.
Yeah, and it makes it feel woven into him and like part of his body. And like I was saying, I was really impressed with the texture choice on that, because otherwise it would just look kind of like goo if it was just flat without that faceted. And I think since he is like an organic, made of nature creature, it's neat to kind of incorporate a texture that's more associated with nature than, say, like green goo. You're thinking Ninja Turtles and industry and chemicals, right?
It is kind of turtle ooze colored.
It's like nuclear green. So that was a neat idea to take a texture to tie it with the theme of nature a bit more. Because, that's kind of a tall ask, right? Like, hey, take a nuclear green, but make it feel naturey somehow. Good luck. And gosh, this guy is full of texture. Even more so than usual on some of the costumes, because he does have bark, and they just had a field day with it, because there's a lot of color in there. If we're looking at, like, some of the brush strokes, we have a lot of yellow, maybe a little bit of orange for warmth. And then since they wanted to give him kind of like a growth of moss or lichens, they've added kind of green all over. And it's studied too. Like, it's usually more towards the top, like where it would grow naturally on a real tree. And then occasionally, like, there's one vein on his arm, or like bark. It's not really a vein. I called it a vein because they did this like cool little like where it goes down the arm and then it crooks over around that green gem.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it feel kind of like a vein or a muscle. So it has a really organic look to it. Which in art design, when we're talking like organic or inorganic shapes, we think of organic as kind of like irregular and unordered. So you get like your squiggles and curves and things. And then inorganic shapes are going to be your geometric shapes like squares and triangles and sometimes circles, but you're really looking for really measured and controlled lines. So when we think of like design-wise, when we think of what we look at in real life, as humans, when we design things, we tend to design things very ordered. So there's like squares and rectangles and things. So that's going to be your buildings, industry, very modern and, built by people. And then organic is going to be, when you find it in nature a lot, you're going to have like leaves. Like oak leaves are one of my favorite inorganic shapes because they're just like really squiggly. Mm-hmm. Maple leaves and stuff and so much more out there. They grow in any direction all over, and that's what is all over his design as far as why they chose the bark design. They do loosely follow muscle groups because they do want to imply like a humanoid body. But it's done in a really fun, playful way because they didn't have to follow rules, like I was saying earlier with the way they've designed the proportions. So they really had fun to play around with shapes. Because I can see in like the arms, like they're playing around with like bulges and making things narrow so that things look like real muscle groups, but they get to play around with it kind of unrealistically.
I like that his forearms are twice the size of his upper arms.
Right?
Even more.
And like I was saying, like there is a muscle group that goes from like your chest to your shoulder, but on him they just make it almost entirely a ball because they can. He's a tree guy, so they don't have to make it look realistic, and we just buy it because if it was on a person, and we'd be like, wow, that guy's super weird shaped, right? Mm-hmm. But since he's made out of tree bark, we're like, cool, we believe it. I love the little details of the leaves too, growing on the ends. And they do have like a little bit of extra twiggy things, and again, they're just sticking up in fun places. I really think they're really playing around with muscle groups because I see like some on like this big collar around his neck, and then they have a couple little twigs off of that. There's like some along where his legs connect to his hips. There's like some kind of little growth spikies there. And they're not symmetrical too, because again, he's growing like a real plant, so it'd be weird if they were like 100% symmetrical. So they're like roughly symmetrical, but they're a little bit different. I want to see the back side to see what we got going on for design there. Oh, I love the tailbone on the back there. And then it's wrapped around. That's an interesting design. They must have spent, I think, a few iterations to come up with that, because I'm kind of seeing loosely back muscles, but it's very not one-to-one. Because I love that normally on the back muscles you'll have like a lot of interconnecting muscle groups, and they're like big, large groups that go towards the spine. Mm-hmm. Whereas on him, there's like roughly like where his tailbone would be if he had a skeleton, and then it's like one big branch, and then one other branch, and it's all irregular, asymmetrical. So again, he just feels like a plant that just grew and not necessarily like a human being. That's really fun. I want to see the back of the legs if we get a little farther out. The feet.
Oh yeah, the feet are great.
Yeah, the feet, they were just
That's too many toes.
They wish it went full fantasy, and he just basically has tree stumps for feet with movable toes. But it feels really nice. It's a really fun, fantastical way of going about that. And then they really had fun for proportions, because looking like these like really long arms and really long fingers. Oh, but if you want to know a fun thing about proportions and actually making it look nice, is that there's like these forms of measurements on the human body where we can kind of measure where limbs and other body parts are going to end. So like basically a way to determine if we're making them long enough or short enough or where they should be. And if you're playing with proportions and actually pushing and pulling things, there's a few things you can do that'll still make it look like it should be okay. One of the ones is that like when you're standing, your hands generally just kind of hang around just below your hips. So like he has to stand up a little bit, but his hands end up just around his knees a little bit. And like elbow is usually like right under the rib cage. So they're really playing with that proportion and like pushing it a little bit farther out of normal. But it still feels like in the range of reality a bit. Because I think what they did is they kind of kept his height like normal, and they just kind of pulled the hips up. So he has like a really short torso. Which really adds a lot of fun to his animation where he's hunched over. Because now he's not going to do it. He's a little shy. But when he hunches down like that, it really pushes the proportion of the limbs. And I also think helps sell that even though it's unrealistic on the proportions a bit, when he's hunched over, we just kind of assume that that's just a perspective thing, and so we're not really measuring or registering that as a little odd. I'm trying to see if I missed anything to talk about, but gosh, it's just such fun on the textures. He's even got like a big piece of bark shooting up out of like where his kneecaps would be. But they're like really big and irregular and playful.
I love how asymmetrical they went with Groot.
Yeah. And like, I draw and have studied anatomy and muscle groups, so like I see that they're following that idea, but it's very exaggerated and it's not one-to-one. It's really playful. It's like, yes, there's a bone here, but let's like make the shape itself interesting and not really worry about accuracy. Because they don't have to, because like I keep saying, he's a fantasy tree man. He does not need to have human anatomy. But they're using some of those groups to make it feel like a real creature and have like some sort of design and order to it that we're familiar with. And gosh, there's so many fun lines in his body too, because they do all these branches to build his arms up and things. And it looks like they kind of let the bigger bark pieces kind of exist on the outer limbs, so you don't have that as much of that twining bark thing. It's more like big pieces. But all the stuff they did on the lines for the smaller bark are just really fun to me as an artist, because when you draw a good line, you're just like, ooh, line, so fun.
Yeah, you do not want to put this guy on a comic page for more than a couple of panels.
Yeah, and it's got like zigzags and like really irregular and fun lines. A lot of fun. And then like sometimes they do like a little spiral up there too. Like they're just having a lot of fun with this design, and it comes together really well. And like color wise, it looks like we're doing a lot where we have like a lot of the light brighter colors, all that yellows and stuff, or on the chest and the head and the upper body. And then we don't use those yellow highlights as much, or really at all, on the lower limbs. And then nice warm brown. Warm brown, pretty bright warm green. Reds, pretty much all warm color scheme. Greens would bring a little bit of cool color so you get that contrast. Just lovely. I can't wait to see what in the world they came up with for alternate outfits on this. Oh, I didn't just notice he kind of has like a beard thing going on with the shape of his face and the bark.
Yeah.
And fantasy creatures are really fun because then you'd be like, no nose! Yes, finally! I hate drawing those things. There's so many angles on the nose. Very fun. And then there's like so many playful little animations. I like this one a lot. A lot of character in this one. You ready? Ready for some more?
All right, let's go to the recolor.
Ooh, blue and icy. Interesting idea to go with the neon mushrooms, though. What in the world's going on there? I feel like if I was gonna go that way, I'd maybe make the eyes neon too, or maybe like where the green highlights were neon. They kind of stand out because I keep wanting to look upwards and I keep getting dragged down to look at that bright orange.
Yeah, now that I've noticed the mushrooms on his base skin, they're all I can look at on the recolor.
It's because it's the only color that's different. So you're like, dump, right to the bottom, right? Let's give him a little bit of a chance. Let's assume like someone maybe didn't put neon pink and orange mushrooms on him. So they went with kind of a cool blue-gray, kind of steely, and then kind of some more cyan blue highlights, which cyan's kind of like pushing the blue up more towards the warmer color schemes. So pretty simple there. It kind of loses a lot of the layering and coloring of the base one, because the base one has like that brush strokes are like yellow and orange and on that brown. This is more just like a lighter color of the steel, which they already had purple in the mushrooms. They could have played a little bit with that, and I kind of can see some purple in the gem. So, you know, they could have played a little bit with color here that they didn't do. And I think the mushroom might have been like way off. It feels a little familiar. I think I've seen like the idea of like kind of like the crystal forest theme, you know, where like everything's like, okay, trees, but now they're all blue and purple, and then we're gonna have like sort of like some purple or neon mushrooms, you know, and like they'll usually be like a fuchsia or that color scheme. I'm sure if you've seen fantasy illustrations, you've seen something like that already. Mm-hmm. Which is, it makes me wonder if that's what they wanted or were trying to go for with this color scheme and the mushroom color, but yeah, it's just like overall they just kind of the mushrooms really pull this away from the design, and I think the color palette is a little too plain compared to what they usually do with their color palettes. Because usually I see a lot more interest in even in their simple color palettes. They go 1, 2, 3. This is more like 1, 2, and oh my gosh, mushrooms. Which is a problem when you get to monochromatic ones, because if you're gonna do a monochromatic color scheme, which means you pick one color and you just do lighter or darker shades of that color, usually at that point you have to rely on value interest instead. So if we're talking like values on him, he has basically like medium and then a color that's slightly lighter than medium, and that's kind of it if you don't count like the highlight color, which I'm not counting as his color palette because that's more of a lighting effect. But you know, as far as his design, there's not really super dark, there's not really super light, there's just medium all across the board. I mean, you could probably pull out a few darks with the shadows and stuff, but that's again shadow, and that's just lighting. But I would think for his overall design, especially since he is like 100% tree, you have to have a little bit more range in value to make a one color scheme pop off on him. But that's like my opinion, man. Yeah, a little disappointed in this one, but let's see what else they got.
All right, well, if you don't like this level of monochrome, how about the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 skin?
Oh, no. At least it doesn't have the mushrooms dragging you down to the bottom. And this is like a whole new model, really.
Yep.
I mean, it's like,
I'm a little disappointed they didn't go with the Guardians of the Galaxy 1 skin.
Yeah.
Because I think this is ugly and not great to look at, but...
Yeah, it's like one of those... I think silhouette-wise, that's just a little too heavy. And I've talked about doing proportions on the overall designs on a few other videos where you have like a grouping of something large, a grouping of something medium, and then something small. And I think this one is that the proportions of that 1, 2, 3 is not quite met, because you have like gigantic, enormous feet. Well, and then like a gigantic, enormous arms, and then like the only thing that's kind of medium or smallish is kind of like the middle.
He's just straight up got human muscles too.
Yeah, so like this is one where like they could have decided to maybe tone down one part of the body so they could do a 1, 2, 3 proportion. I guess maybe they were thinking the head could be the smallest portion and then like the body's medium, but the thighs just don't let that happen visually. And yeah, they got like veins and stuff on the outside of the bark too, so it looks more organic, like flesh, than it does like bark. He actually, honestly, with the colors and stuff, doesn't look very bark-like at all, except for a little bit on the head. He looks more like stone to me.
To be fair, that is the color that Guardians of the Galaxy 1 Groot was.
Yeah, but I mean, they could have played a little bit with it, even though it was kind of like he was kind of a gray ash color. But there are trees with bark that color, and usually if you pull up a reference of that kind of tree, there's like little bits of like brown and lichens and things like they could have punched up to kind of not let that overall gray kind of dominate.
So what you're saying is you miss the mushrooms.
Well, I just really like texture, and he has no texture really.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of does, but the texture is not wood.
After base Groot, this one has no texture.
Yeah, like, especially when you compare it to their previous design. No texture. There are a few little branches around the head. I kind of like that little detail. They kind of pop off his arms and stuff. Oh, he actually has irises on this one.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he did in the movie, but usually the contrast was you only really saw them in close-ups. I think I would have cheated and just let it be gray, to be honest. It looks a little weird on him up here. And then, yeah, because, like, the front of the face is so smooth. And like, you know, the movie, it's a CGI 3D model, so in the movie you got, like, lots of texture and stuff that they put on those models to make them look photorealistic.
Mm-hmm.
So they took the design and then took the photorealistic texture off, and that was just, like, plastic stone flat, which is really odd to see from them. Gosh, there's some parts that like feel like I want to like, because there's like kind of some interesting choices in like building the abs on there and like the way the pieces are stuck together. But like there's some parts that are just not working. Like there's no contrast between like the upper part of the hip and the rest of the torso, so it just kind of looks like they're connected at certain angles, even though like the pieces are see-through. Because then that just makes it feel, again, like flesh. If they had maybe put more green or more texture on the edges of stuff. And I'm thinking like a rough texture, like char or like texture bark. And you could just do it on the edges. I think that would have helped push the design to more just a little bit better than it does. And there's like a tiny hints of it, because I can see some in like the arm holding the flower, that there's like some bark texture on little tiny pieces of it. I think it's just too subtle or something. I don't know. Something's not meshing.
Yeah.
And like I know that he has green on him too, and that was in the movie, but it feels a little subtle. And we know this is the Marvel Rivals skin, right? And it's a translation of that design to Marvel Rivals, so I think they could have punched up the moss more. Because, you know, with the way this overall looks, it's like, just make him more mossy. It'd still look like the movie design, but it would look a lot better.
Yeah.
Especially when the colors are so neutral, and it's the one neutral color for like 98% of your design is just too one note, and it doesn't quite have this body shape to pull it off alone either. Let's zoom out a little bit just to see if there's anything else to talk about here. What do the back of the legs look like? I don't really talk about them too much. Yeah, it's almost bark-like.
They gave him cake.
They did give him a little bit of cake. It's almost bark-like on the legs and such, but it's just a little not. I think it's like some of the edges are too flat. Like,
Ironically, the small of his back is his most detailed bit.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, because like that's like one area where like there's more of a denser texture, and it's a little bit different colored. It's more of like a grayish color, but you don't see any of that, I think, or hardly any of it from the front.
See just how much cake they gave him.
And
Substantial.
Yeah, and I'm noticing that gray vine has a little bit of the vein in the backs of his arms and stuff. I think if they just had punched the value on that a little bit down, or just so it contrasts with the kind of slate gray green color they've picked, that might have been a little bit more interesting. So yeah, this is one, like, it almost works. They just needed to, I think, in my opinion, punch up a few colors, and it would have looked a little bit better. It's not the worst, but it's not the best that they do. And I'm judging them from their best, because their best is really, really good. So they're okay designs. I'm just like, what happened? Were they sick that day? But yeah, there's some things I kind of want to like, but it's just overall, it just doesn't mesh. Might just be my opinion. All right. So we see what else they have to offer.
All right, now that we've done the bad skins, let's go to the good skins. This is my favorite.
Ooh. They kind of played around again with his face structure too, because now he's all narrow. The beard is gone.
And he's got a scar too.
Yeah. He's got like carvings into him and stuff. He's kind of like a punk rock version of a tree guy, which is kind of a fun concept to play with, because instead of like doing spiked bracelets and stuff, they like barbed wire. And since he's just a tree guy, he can just do that, because you know he's not gonna feel bark on his skin.
You see where it says Groot on his right arm? That's an edit. Originally it said Goot. Because I guess the art department typoed or whatever and didn't know English letters very well. And I'm actually a little disappointed they fixed it, because I thought it added a lot of character to the skin.
Groot, but he carves his name wrong.
Groot. The tree can't spell.
Just one of those ones where, like, you know, they cross off a name on a tree and then write another name. But yeah, the color's fun too. It's kind of interesting because it has kind of like this dead tree feel to it, but it's also like really fiery and warm.
Mm-hmm.
And then that makes the design feel like really dangerous. It's almost like he has a villain skin, which which might be true. I don't know what this one is based off of.
Let me see. This is first appears in Rocket Raccoon and Groot 2016. I don't think this is a villain skin. I think this is just
just really old man Groot.
Yeah.
Cave miner Groot. He goes, I am Groot. And Rock is like, I don't want to go down to the hoot nanny. I like the ring, barbed wire ring too.
Oh yeah, it
And
does
then-
have a ring.
And then they get like fun. They kind of put it in the bark too, on like around the gems, which are really punched down in color a bit because they're yellow, so they kind of blend in a bit. Because they decided to change their placement and a few other things, which I think was a great idea, because they're adding like this scarf and the barbed wire and stuff. So adding another element would be maybe a bit distracting. And like the carvings are just kind of like there as texture, and then they're like a little fun thing to read later, because they're only slightly lighter than most of his other body color. They're not like gonna be super contrasty with everything else. Like the barbed wire is higher contrast than that color they use for the carvings.
Yeah, you're never going to see this in a match, but if you sit on the character select screen, you'll be able to look at it quite well.
Yeah, and so like when you're not paying attention to them, they're just nice bits of extra texture, and then when you want to pay attention to them, you can just read what they are. What's the back look like a bit? Ooh. Yeah, they changed the back texture up too. So now instead of like a bunch of vines, it's more like big pieces of bark that are interwoven. And you know, this is one, like, this feels like bark. The other one didn't, and it doesn't have the advantage of having those vined things together, because they took the vines out. But they still put like these knobs like on the sides of his arms that are kind of spiky, but the knobs feel like the kind of stuff that would grow on a tree. We don't see minerals that grow that way. And there's like a bunch of other stuff that kind of sells it, because the edges of those big pieces of bark, they're kind of cut off at irregular angles. Minerals don't tend to do that very much unless they're shattered. So like, you know, bark can have this kind of ragged, rough edge to it that will sell it as bark. And I think kept the painted texture on this a lot better, so it just sells a lot better on the texture. Yeah, that other last one threw me off. I was like, where's the texture? You guys know how.
Like I said, that was my least favorite Groot skin.
The knot hole on the back of the head is really cute.
Yeah.
And it kind of gives him kind of like this big poof as a hairstyle. And yeah, they had a lot of fun. There's like kind of a little bit of cooler elements, like the cold grays, and the kind of the scarf is kind of like this. It's almost purpley. I have to stare at this for a minute, because I think it's got a little bit of warmth in it, so I'm trying to determine if it's warm or cold gray. But I think it's one of those things that they probably might have put a warm gray on there, and then it just feels cool just by context of the warm colors around it. And then they, of course, have like some warm brushing on the top, where it's like this orange lighting, and then the bottom has some brushing of some cool blue lighting. So there's like, again, a lot of subtle changes in the colors there that are meshing with the overall color scheme. There's actually kind of nice rim light I just noticed on this model, because I think it's dynamic too, but there's like this yellow that's popping on the arm really good there. And along the rest of the pretty much left side of the character. Yeah. I don't know if that's been on other characters too, with like some blue and like pink highlights on some other characters I've seen, but that one just looks really nice on this one. And that's like I was saying, like an artistic illustration choice that is used really, really often, because if you drop that secondary light, sometimes it's hard to define other details and keep everything nice and clear. And film likes to do this a lot too. You have one big light that's your main, and then you do like some kind of rim light that's either... Sometimes you'll be like, oh, it's a lamp or some other thing. Other times you don't care. You just put it off to the side and be like, it's just there. We don't have to explain why there's a second light in this one light situation, because it just looks nicer and it's easier for the viewer to kind of pick up all the additional details. Let's zoom out once and I'll see if there's anything I missed on this design, because we looked mostly at the top. Oh, that's kind of a fun thing with the barbed wire. They went kind of back and forth, so they have like one on the thigh and then they switch sides, so it's balanced visually, which is a thing. It's like if you put like big object on one side, then you have to counterbalance it visually with another object on the opposite side, whether that's through contrast, scale, color. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and that's like a lifelong pursuit to doing it well. But in this case, they're doing that here with the barbed wire, and like the barbed wire on the arm kind of matches with the one on the thigh, so we have like big object, small object, and they're counterbalanced on the other arms, and it's all asymmetrical, which fits with this kind of rugged looking character who doesn't look like he plays by the rules. Like, I don't know what the story is, but he's seen some things. You just know by the way it's designed.
Yep.
And I still getting like minor vibes, but I think that's just because of the barbed wire and the color scheme and the lantern. It just feels very Western. And yeah.
Yeah, this skin came from one of the special events during the Dracula season.
Ooh.
So it's kind of a Halloween skin.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Kind of fits with that like apocalyptic horror vibe. And yeah, they're doing what they do with many of their other skins. All the bright colors, like the bright oranges on the top. None of that bright orange is going to be displayed as it goes down. It's like a gradient almost. Which is really... I like that as a design choice for this game, because it really is meshing all the character designs, even though they're wildly different in color schemes and everything. They're all kind of following the same logic. And, they all have pretty much the same lighting, so that's a really nice... I bet there's like a style guide that is written down somewhere that tells them, like, all characters must have A, B, C,
Yeah.
So in that way, that even when they get to express their creativity in the designs, they still are going to mesh and feel like they belong to the same setting, universe, environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I like this one. Very cool.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Your favorite? Great. So everything I have to watch after this is not your favorite?
I think you'll like this next one a little better.
All right.
But I could be wrong. Welcome to the Yggdrasil one.
Ooh, has a cinematic. That's fun little special effect animation. I don't think I've seen that kind of thing used as a special effects. Oh my gosh, he reminds me of like early 2000s Y2K effects with the little rainbow squares. Like, sorry, that's the vibe I'm getting. He's just like the Y2K. I bet he listens to like Spice Girls. Wow, this is a busy design, but let me see what's actually going on in here.
It is pretty busy, but I think it's good busy. Like, there's a lot going on, but it's all interesting.
Yeah.
And it's sectioned out fairly well. Like, there's like his upper arms are a section of darker gray, and then his forearms are a section of lighter gray, and along with his hands. And then his thighs are darker gray, and his calves and feet are lighter gray. His chest is lighter gray, and his shoulders are darker gray. It's all sectioned out so that it's in discrete areas, which I think makes it work.
Yeah, those are kind of the different values in the different sections are helping pop forward important landmarks that shape the body. So you're pointing out light gray. Like if you zoom out, we're going to look at big picture here for a minute. So light gray is in the face, so we get to see the beard, right? If they hadn't done the dark gray, it would get lost. Light gray for the chest, because heroic, right? You got to have the big pecs. And then you got the arms, the pauldron parts of the arms. Just a piece of that is light gray, but it's completing the shape made by the pectoral area. So it's not just like, you know, chest piece. It's like a shape that's interesting and looks dynamic. And then we go back to the arms and the hips and the legs. Again, we go light gray so that we can pick out those areas and see that they're parts of the body that are distinct. And then the blue section, they went instead kind of, some of the crystals are more like a pattern. And there's a few other patterns on some of the bark areas too. I just noticed on like the arms and legs, which is it's kind of fun because they kept the color scheme pretty consistent, so it's not too distracting because they do all these light blue elements throughout. And they're really playing a bit with the colors too, because some of them are like punched up to like kind of cyan, and some of them are more dark. I don't know if they change color if he spins or not. I'm trying to figure out if that's a lighting thing or just the color they actually are. I thought some of them looked like they were changing, but it looks like they don't, that I can tell. So really they're just kind of carefully picking out a couple shades of blue, because some of them are a little bit more cyan and some of them are a little bit more blue, and it's really subtle because they don't want to go too much and make it really busy. They just want a little up and down to make it a little visually interesting and have some of that variety. Kind of like adding a little bit of sugar or a little bit of salt to your cookies to make them sweeter. It's kind of like that.
You're adding salt to your cookies to make them sweeter?
Yes, you do. It's a thing you do. You add a little like bit of salt, like a tiny bit, and it makes your cookies sweeter because it's a little salty. You don't ever taste the salt, but it makes the cookies sweet than if you just use sugar alone.
Huh. I guess from contrast?
Yeah, it's like a contrast thing. All the baking people are going, yes, Heiko is totally correct. And the people who don't bake are going, salt in my cookies? Yes, you've been eating the salt in your cookies the whole time. It's been a conspiracy forever because it's in every recipe. So let's talk about some of the bigger details. We talked about the blue and the grays and how they're meshed together. He has like these floating orbs that are around him.
Yeah, with Norse runes, I believe, is what those are.
Maybe I'm not that familiar with them. If they
or maybe
are,
just Marvel Asgard symbols.
might be Marvel ones. Because I'm like, they don't look very Norse to me. And if they are, they're really stylized. But I don't think so. Because I'm not. At least maybe it's a different rune set. But I don't think that's the one. They look not what I'm familiar with. In any case, what I think is interesting about using this as a design is that clearly we're adding the whole rainbow now.
Uh-huh.
And you know, like we got these big
Pride
baubles.
Groot, Pride Groot, Pride Groot.
We got these big baubles of color, but they deal with that problem in an interesting way, because if you zoom out, all the baubles are like at the top, and so you have this big colorful thing on the top of him that are kind of dynamic and following him around and are animated. You know, they're very eye-catching. And then to kind of contrast all that rainbowy thing and not get you stuck just looking at the top of his huge body, they put this particle effect that has all the colors that are in those baubles that just kind of float around his limbs. But they're not nearly as bright. They're like slightly toned down compared to the colors in the baubles, and so they really balance out that in an interesting way. Which, I guess you could do this in a flat illustration too, which is more my purview, but them being animated and stuff is kind of interesting and just fun to look at. It's one of those ones you would think on paper, like, will that work? But it looks like it works pretty well. One thing I do like quite a lot is they chose pretty much a pretty monochromatic design for his body. It's like kind of a gray, green, slate green, and then like a warm gray. And then they just, in a few areas, they just put green in a few spots. Just kind of play with the colors. And I think it makes this nice glow. And it's a green type, a shade of green that matches with the cyan they're already using. So it really just feels like it's following the color family that they've established. And are keeping up with that. Yeah, I'm trying to determine the type of gray they use, because it's one of those fun colors where you, like, it could be a gray that's with a little bit of a green tint to it. It could also be it's nearly in the white color family and just has like a green gray tint to it.
I think it's the same gray that's on the Guardian's skin.
It almost looks like it. They should have just copied this guy's homework. But I love that it's kind of a warmer. I'm trying to. It's one of those colors. Like, is it warm? Is it not? But I think it's a green, yellow, and then they kind of have like this other gray, which to me, even though they're brushing some oranges and other colors in the painting layer that they do on these, it feels almost purple-like. It's like a warm gray, but it's a little bit bluish purple. So I think there's some subtle changes in the neutral gray colors on this color scheme that are really playing with having similarities with the colors they've already established, which is that cyan blue, and purple is just like a lovely color to add to a blue color scheme because you get a little bit of moodiness to it. And then again, just crazy with the textures on these models. There's just so much goodness in there that I love because it just feels like a painted illustration. And see, they got like some rune details. This had to be a hard one to manage because it is very busy.
I think it's evidence that a busy design can still be good.
Yeah. And like this one is a little less straightforward than some of their other designs because I think they took what was good by the base design, which was already like, you know, scale of big bark on top, branching intricate texture bark on the waist, you know, keeping all those shapes contrasting in scale and controlling it really well, and then just adding the busyness on top of that already good design. So now you have like the baubles, and then we're going to balance the color of the baubles with a particle effect. So you already had a good design, now you're just kind of keeping with that design philosophy of like, you know, big shape on top, a little bit of balance on the legs, and you're good to go. And they could have done this with any kind of design. They could have added like rings or other jewelry or something, as long as they kept the, you know, the same design philosophy that they did with the body. I don't know if there's anything I missed on this. I noticed the pauldron part of his costume is a lot bigger than his base one, and I really love that. It just feels really nice. And like, of course, the bark and the bark hair with the branches is a lot bigger.
And the little leaves.
Yeah, and then again, they're just playing with proportion a bit more. So they took what was already good about the base design and went like, all right, let's push proportion in a couple areas. So the character is still really balanced, but in this case, he feels like big and majestic almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Compared to like the other one, he just feels big and, you know, like tree man. And this one's like, ooh, majestic, large tree man, you know. Now he has some grandiose because he has this big upper visual characteristics now that weren't there before. I think he still has the mushrooms, and I think the feet are pretty similar.
Oh, he does have the mushrooms.
Yeah. See, they're hiding them by using the blue accents, you know, so they just kind of fall in line with the rest of the design.
He has even more mushrooms than the base design.
See, it's all so well designed. You didn't even notice, did you?
Yeah.
You'll be like, oh yeah, blue, blue, blue. You know, then you see the big bright values on the top, and that bright greens on the top. They don't put that at all in the legs and the lower limbs, just like the other designs.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, yeah. I don't know. I just love how illustrative the design of these 3D models are, because games, due to the history of design and the way limitations of the games were, you couldn't do something like this before. You know, because I grew up as 3D games just started, you know, so the design philosophies in games kind of branched out a different way than the rest of the art world because of necessity. You know, someone could have this vision, but it's like, yeah, you can't program that and have it run on like a 64-bit system or something, right?
Now I kind of want a PS1 style demake of Marvel Rivals.
The demake. But now, if you have a good design team and you're efficient about it, you can, like, I'm sure on a technical level, these models are pretty standard. They've just taken a good art direction and they're painting the texture itself to have all that detail and stuff, but as far as intensity on the system, it's probably not any much more than normal, really.
It really puts a lot of other AAA is this even a AAA game? I'm not sure. It puts a lot of AAA art direction to shame, this game does.
Yeah, and a lot of AAA has gotten stuck in the idea of games must look really realistic and immersive, so they tried to go for realism. And a lot of games, since realism was getting closer and closer to being achievable, and they wanted to chase that idea, stylization, which was very popular in the early era of like gaming started to fall away in a lot of sectors. It was still around in a few places, but it wasn't the default anymore because the graphical intensity of what they could do didn't require to be stylized. And so I really hope we do make a pivot back to some interesting and stylized solutions, because I've seen some amazing game dev stuff put together, like some like mirror stuff that they can do now.
Save us, small indie devs. Save us.
And just like other fun effects and things. And I just think there's a whole world out there that's unexplored as far as like stylized artistic interpretation. And that's why I'm just really impressed with Marvel's. On top of it just being really well designed, it's just really, it's going out on a branch, really. Because I think there's only a couple other games I've seen, and I haven't played them, but I've seen some previews of games that I think have been stylized. And one was the Dragon Ball Z fighting game. Because there's been a few before, but like I forgot the title of the newest one. But the newest one, like they really locked in. They're like, okay, we have the technology and the ability. Let's make this look as close to like the art style and the anime style and the manga style as we could possibly do. And it looks
The side-scrolling one, you mean, or the 3D one?
the 3D one.
Yeah,
It's
Sparking Zero.
I don't remember the title. It's the fighting game that came out a few years ago. I think they even have a sequel to it.
A few years ago would be Fighters. The one that just came out last year is Sparking Zero.
Okay. See, I don't keep up, but I do recognize art. As we recognize art.
Oh yeah, Fighters looks incredible.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like as far as a stylized art style in a video game, they really went out there and did something cool. And
it's worth looking at how they did the animations in that game with the various camera angles, because they did a lot of squash and stretch and enlargement to make things look anime properly.
yeah. Oh, Overwatch had some of that too, where some of the like MVPs and stuff, they actually switched to a totally different model because the rigging and the perspective of the base model wouldn't be able to do the animations that they want. So they'll have, if you can break the camera and actually look at it, it's like really weirdly like stretched and, and exaggerated. And that's a whole technical thing, because you would think, well, why can't we represent it with realistic proportions? And that has to do with cameras and lenses and perception, and sometimes exaggerating things will make it look more real than if you tried to draw it realistically.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of learning how to draw things in perspective, like limbs and things. And it's like, if it looks like a weird lumpy flesh lump, you're probably doing it right. Because you have to draw things in proportions, so it squashes things so much. Like the arm has a certain like length and size, but you're trying to draw it at an angle, and you're just like, I gotta throw away what I know and draw it a different way, because otherwise if I draw what I think it's gonna look like, it's gonna be wrong. I have to draw it in perspective and make it look like a weird thing, and then it'll look correct. It's weird. I talked a lot on this guy, but he is got a lot going on for him, and he was kind of a fun thing about what's really good with this game.
Yeah.
How many more do we have left? 2?
We have one in game and one more I got to show you because it's not in the shop anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the current season theme is the Venom symbiote, and so we get Symbiote Groot.
Ooh. I had someone buy me a Funko Pop of Symbiote Groot, and this is like 100 times cooler than that.
What, really?
Yeah.
A Funko Pop of Symbiote Groot?
Yeah, I don't think they picked that one out very well, but I've had it for a while before I finally threw it out, because Funko Pops are ugly. Sorry. But, for those ones, it was just kind of like the base Venom design, like, draw Groot, but make his color black and then put a Venom face on it, right?
Yeah.
This went way more than that. It is way more fun. Oh gosh, what didn't they do on here? Let's just look at color for a moment, because that's my favorite thing, and get that out of the way. Can we zoom out for a moment just to have a good look? So we have this kind of, it's a cool dark gray, and then we're fading out a few areas to have a bit more of a purple color to it, especially on the head. It's kind of a fun little pop of color, because I don't think they use that purple fade anywhere else that I can see, just up there. And then they have this highlight color of light blue. which they're using for the mineral highlight again. But it's on his fingers too, which I don't think was on some of the other designs, which is a really fun way to kind of pop the hands. Because if they're all black, they would probably kind of fade in and get lost a little bit. So it kind of like really pops the form of the fingers, which is a fun idea to do with this design in particular, because, you know, Venom's whole thing is like, rah, teeth, rah, claws, rah, goo, right? And they really went all out on the teeth, because he's got, like, this armor-shaped, like, maw that's, like, pulling up like a collar, and then he has, like, 2 maw pauldrons with enormous stylized teeth, like these tusks on the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think on the head, it's almost a little bit reminds me of a carnivorous plant thing going on.
Yeah.
And the tongue even has a little animation that looks kind of like a little flare or a little like a lure. The teeth on the front of the face are an interesting design.
I think that looks a little doofy.
It looks a little odd. It's interesting shaped, but it doesn't make sense for anything. So, but I don't know what I would have went for the direction. I guess maybe they're just trying to get more of the open mouth thing on the Groot model, because the Groot model's got a really small mouth to begin with. And if you go turn his face to the profile view on the other side, I think it's a little bit better because the tongue's out of the way. A little bit more. A little bit more. You know what profile is? There you go.
He was moving.
He was moving. Sure. Blame the actor. Typical director. But you can see there's no teeth on the maw. So when you do get the right angle to it, you can kind of see it's more of like a, you know, alien kind of big mouth thing. Yeah,
Goblin shark.
Goblin shark thing, yeah. I think that might have been a limitation of the model without changing it and me modeling it entirely. I don't know if they were limited in that way or if that was a design thing, but I think when they do some of the skins, it does seem like they try to not completely rework the wheel. They're like building on top of it. But I don't know what their design process is, so maybe I'm just making things up. I did notice from this angle, though, that the hair thing is actually more of like a tongue waggle thing when you look at it this way. It even has like a little bit of physics.
Oh, yeah.
And then the back of the head has another maw thing. Yeah, so again, like a plant that might trap you or something. I think they probably could have, if they had permission, just gone all out and just had his head like be a whole weird, like, little Shop of Horrors thing going on, you know, just a big maw. Forget the eyes, it's just teeth. I would have went for that. That would have been fun. Would have lost a bit of personality, but it would have been very funny. Ooh, he's got like animation on his neck.
Yep,
And
all sorts of parts of the symbiote costumes pulsate.
yeah,
It's awesome.
and so this, in case they turned the texture area to the pulsate area, which is a pretty good choice because it leaves everything else to be kind of solid and stationary and feel like kind of tough. And it's got the blue highlights like it was on the default. Trying to see if there's other things that are particularly different. There's a little bit of like a goo effect here and there just to drip off of him. Let's give him a spin just to see if I missed anything that was a little really different. Doesn't have mushrooms anymore, I think.
Nope.
No.
Venomate him.
No symbiote mushrooms? Unacceptable. But yeah, I really think that they had a lot of fun with the stylization of the teeth on this costume to make them really, really pointy. And it's like vaguely... It's not 100%, but it's a vaguely reminiscent of carnivorous plants, but I think they went more mammal with like the teeth and just had a little bit of a hint of the carnivorous plant, which I don't know, hopefully they do something like that in the future. That'd be a pretty cool skin to have something based off of a carnivorous plant, because there's all sorts of them and they're all usually bright green with reds and yellows. It'd be a pretty neat design for him, I think. Yeah. And then they got a little bit of like the brighter blues in the accent are on the top, and then they like have more colder, less bright blues on the bottom. They're just a little bit, the hue is just adjusted a little bit to the side essentially. The values are the same, more it's just the hue is changed, which is a nice way to give visual interest without getting too much variety and dominating your design too far. You just go hue boop, to the side a little bit, and then you get a little bit of a little tiny bit It's kind of like cooking almost. It's like you don't want to over season.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to do another cooking metaphor for art. I must be hungry.
You just had breakfast.
I did. It is kind of like that sometimes, though, when you're messing with the different design principles. It's like you're pushing one to one area, then you push it the other way, which is kind of to the point where there's sometimes you can't really get straightforward rules, is because there's no really one answer to any design problem. But yeah. And I'm really loving they still got the yellow highlights, which looks great on all that blue. I'm trying to see if they did any funny color work here and there, but it's pretty solid. I think it's mostly value. I don't see a lot of hue change. It might be a bit more purpley towards the bottom, but I think that's just because they desaturated the blue a bit, like they've done on a lot of other costumes. Which again is really aiding that illustrative idea, because you're getting these really subtle changes and it just makes everything look really rich. Yeah. These designs are kind of like the decadent rich chocolate cake of designs. It's like they're very rich.
I love how you looked at the symbiote and went, I'm hungry.
Yeah, because there's like designs that are really simple that are also really good, and that's like, you know, your basic cake where you can't go wrong, right? It's like, and it's still delicious and you love it.
They can do super simple. They like, remember Hulk?
Yeah, but Hulk had a lot of painting and colors on him. I talked about that.
True.
Which is why I always look for them, because I'm kind of curious of, like, you know, sometimes they do a lot of that color and hue change, and sometimes they don't. And I think it's usually like dependent on what the surface they're painting on is. So if it's like a cape where it's big, flat, there's no texture, they're going to do something, right? If it's like Groot here, where he's already got a bunch of vines and texture already, there's not really a lot of paint work to mess with the hues there, because it's already got a lot to go off of, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have these big blank areas that would look out of place without something going on. So they don't need to, you know, put a little bit of green here or a little bit of orange here, you know. They can just kind of stick with the values and a little bit of value change and call it a day. But this one's good. I like it. Very fun.
Okay. Well, that's all these skins that I have available to show you in the game. There's one more that I'll be swapping to an internet browser for. But let's go through the MVPs for these guys real quick.
Okay.
Let's go with this skin. This is default.
Oh, pretty.
Here is the Guardians one. Oh, well, spoiler for a Rocket costume. Yeah, I think that one's boring.
That one's fun. You know, that one must be fun for people who really like the kind of magical caster design, because it just went 100% on that theme and nailed everything. This is like, I am the noble protector of the forest. Boom, boom, magic power. Blah, grass. I'm awesome.
The most kick-ass flower of all time.
Right. I am Groot. Alright.
Let's see if there are any emotes that are interesting.
Does Venom one not have a special?
No. I'm actually surprised by how few
have a unique
MVPs he has. Yeah.
Wow.
Like, I didn't think this one would have an MVP, but because it was just like a bonus thing. But no, they didn't give Venom Groot an MVP in the Battle Pass.
Oh, because you would think it'd be like, you know, like, I am Venom kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, you'd think.
Or maybe like some cool particle effects on tongue, you know? You know how it be, you Venom fans. I didn't watch the movie 3 times in theaters, no. Ooh, rainbow!
Pride Groot, Pride Groot.
I like that, it's pretty. T-pose for dominance. Awesome dance. It sure is.
Okay, so that's all I can show you in-game for the moment. So let's swap to internet, and I will put this on this screen. You're looking at Holiday Groot, Christmas Groot.
Cool. He's even got Christmas lights. I'm already a fan. I love the hell out of Christmas lights. You know, with the horns, I'm sure that they were going for a reindeer thing, but my first thought was Krampus.
Yep.
The unholy mixture of Santa and Krampus. They've had a lot of fun with this, though. Like, they turned the brown to kind of like really chocolatey, dull brown.
Hang up.
You're so excited for Christmas, I know, but you gotta wait a few months.
I hit the wrong internet scene, and then when I tried to fix it, I accidentally grabbed the scene and moved it.
User error. Oh, he's even got a little rocket, little decorations on his sleeves.
Yeah.
Oh, cute.
If you hang on, I'm gonna let him turn around and pause it. He's got Mantis and Star-Lord too.
Very cute. And what a fun idea to cut up the color schemes on here, because they basically gave him pants, which is a little unusual for Groot.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, it's the holidays, so he can treat himself. But it's, you know, got like these big green, brown, and then like the only light thing is the beard, so you're always going to be looking at his face and the yellows and stuff. Really just kind of, they basically pick the color palette and then control the proportions really well. Because there is a thing you can do with color palettes. You'll like put every color you want to use, and then you'll decide in what proportion you want to use each color. So like this one would probably be like one big bar of green, one almost as big bar of brown, a really small, or like a smaller bar of white, and smaller bar of yellow, and then probably a really small bar of the red and red-brown color. And then they got a little bit of extra colors, like the Mantis is a little bit of a green or something. But those are supposed to stand out because they're, you know, like, oh, it's little buddies, you know.
Oh, he's got 3 rockets on him. He's got one on each hand, too.
Yeah, they're buddies. Lifelong friends. And like little star crown is a cute idea, and it's like the only big yellow thing, so it's a nice designed element to put up in his face. I keep wondering like what's in his chest because I can't see it too well, but it looks like a little diorama statue thing.
It's something. Well, all I know is it's a snow globe.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's supposed to be another statue of like Rocket or not.
Let's wait for it to zoom in.
Cause it looks kind of like a raccoon, but it's really hard to tell. It's so tiny.
It could be a rocket snowman.
Oh, he has like stars in his other gems.
Yep, it's rocket.
Because I just noticed he has little star things in his other arm snow globe.
Looks kind of like a Dragon Ball.
Kind of. You get the Dragon Ball for Christmas, which you're the best kid ever. You were good all year. Here's a Dragon Ball. That one's cute. They did really good with that.
All right, now I believe I can show you the MVP as well. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, nameplate, spray. Ah, here we go.
Oh, he has all the little ornaments of his friends. That's very amusing.
Very cute.
I love the little sparkle effect they did in his eyes when he does that, when he shakes the ornament. That's a good one. There's a lot of little cute little details and animations. It's sweet and simple and sentimental.
I kind of wish I picked this up instead of the Venom one. Because there are good Venom skins that I have, but I like this one.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe that'll be around the seasonal time. They will bring them back.
Here's hoping.
No, see, they got Christmas holiday themed. Are they going to do like Hanukkah and the other? Asking just to show.
Hey, Peter Parker's implied to be Jewish in a lot of Spider-Man media.
I thought he was. He's not. I thought it was more than implied, but I guess
no, it's never been explicit canon.
I guess that's true of a lot of heroes, though, because there was like a whole thing with the
Semitism?
Yeah, that thing. The discrimination. And back when the heyday of these comics came out, where like if you were an illustrator, that was one of the jobs you could get, because comics artist was not seen as like real work. Like, you know, you wanted to be the illustrator of a magazine, not those, you know, rags on the corner, you know.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of them, and that's why there was so many Jewish artists in comics, is because they couldn't get work elsewhere because of the discrimination. And the comics people are like, you draw good, get in here. it wasn't that simple, but you know, it was kind of
Yeah.
interesting anecdote about the times and how it was for people. Which is why a lot of the stories are having a bit of a Jewish bent, because you know, when you look at their backstories and stuff, it's really relatable to the Jewish experience.
I think the only explicitly Jewish Spider-Man thing is in Into the Spider-Verse when it shows Peter's wedding, and it's part of a Jewish wedding.
Yeah, I think they've done some holiday stuff too, where they'll show like the Hanukkah stuff with him, but I don't know if it's been in the comics, but it's been like, you know, they'll say like Happy Holidays kind of thing. Because, you know, there's that long holiday war of, what do you mean there's no Christmas? You must have something. Never mind, it's not nearly equivalent, but, you know, you can't be not celebrating. Get in here. Be merry or else. All right. So.
All right. So you got a favorite skin?
Oh gosh, how to trying to think of on here because I really love the original quite a lot, which is saying something, but it's really nice
Yeah, they did a fantastic job with Default Groot.
because it feels very woodsy and I really like it quite a lot. The red one's pretty good too. I think the other one was well designed, but for me personally, I feel like that bit too much going on. The one that had all the rainbow effects.
The Yggdrasil Groot.
Yeah. And I already said the problems I kind of had with the alternate skin and the Guardians of the Galaxy skins. Gosh, so I think that's such a hard choice because they're good in different ways. And it's hard to pick a best of the best. I need to start making a metric or something and give it a scorecard so I can decide by the time I get to the end. Because I'm torn between original and Venom. I really like the red skin too because it's really got a good narrative on it. Even if you don't know what the story's about, you can really tell a lot about his character. But the original, I really like the painting and the art style on it. And the Venom one is just so playful in the shapes. It's bizarre, like it feels weird, which is a great idea to go with for a Venom themed Groot. Is, you know, because he is an alien too, so alien and alien equals weird. I'm still think I'm leaning towards the original just because there's a little bit more color and in it.
It's a really good design.
And I know Venom's design is like all black, but they introduced the blue into the ensemble anyway, so I feel like at that point he could be a little bit more colorful, rainbow, even iridescent or something. So I think this one's my favorite. It's just got really great texture and painting. I love the warm yellows and oranges that they've put all over the bark texture.
I think this is the first time you've picked the default skin as your favorite.
Yeah, I think it was Doctor Strange where I was like really close to just picking Doctor Strange as the default because the default in him is really good. But I feel it in my heart that this one is my favorite.
It's a good skin. All right, so that's Groot. Up next, we're going to be doing Hawkeye.
Ooh.
Who has one of my least favorite default skins.
Oh no!
I hate default Hawkeye in this game. Almost as much as I hate default Wolverine.
Oh no.
They're pretty on par.
As much as the pink tie?
Oh god, so much worse than the pink tie. All right, well, that's going to be it for today. Thank you for doing this with me.
You're welcome.
And we will see you next time for Hawkeye. Bye-bye.